Moving on to episode 8, Seiya and Isuzu are in the office discussing infrastructure reports. However, Isuzu senses something unusual with Seiya. He does mention having a slight headache. Just as Seiya says so, he collapses as he can't endure it any longer. At the moment, Seiya has been taken to the health room to rest. Some employees have already heard about Seiya, including the 3 Elementario fairies who are currently with Isuzu. It turns out Seiya fainted not due to a serious issue, he's just exhausted and has a fever. Moreover, it would be challenging for the park if Seiya had to be hospitalized. They want to help, but they don't know what to do. Muse then comes up with the idea to reduce Seiya's fever with her magical water trick, while Salama offers to keep Seiya warm with her flames. In the health room, Seiya is being waited on by Princess Latifa. Seiya feels that his illness isn't too severe and wants to continue working. However, Princess Latifa insists on forbidding him. She wants Seiya to rest at home until he's completely recovered. That means he's also prohibited from going to school. Princess Latifa declares that health is more important than anything else. After saying that, Princess Latifa excuses herself to leave. Shortly after, Isuzu also comes to check on Seiya. For some reason, there is a strange object resembling a zipper sticking out from Isuzu's head. When Seiya inquires about it, Isuzu asks him not to think about it. By the way, Seiya expresses concern about his absence from school, so he can't just leave school like that. For some reason, Isuzu suddenly approaches Seiya's body as if teasing him. She says she can't stand being just a secretary. Seiya clearly becomes panicked and embarrassed. And at that moment, Tirami instantly emerges from Isuzu's body. It turns out he used magical clothing to disguise himself as Isuzu. It was Tirami and Macaron's idea to prank Seiya. Apparently, the magical clothing is a modified version of the costumes worn by the mole rats in a cave. Although they teased him earlier, Macaron and Tirami actually intended to help Seiya attend school with the magical clothes. By wearing the Seiya-shaped magical outfit, the problem would be instantly solved. At that moment, without them realizing, the real Isuzu was already behind them. As a result, the two of them are immediately scolded for doing something strange with the magical clothing. After that, Moffel and Isuzu try to discuss the plan with Seiya. In the end, Seiya agrees to it. Previously, they decided to take turns disguising themselves as Seiya. On the first day, Isuzu was the one to do it. She was quite impressed with the magical clothing. She truly looked like a boy. On her way to school, Isuzu, disguised as Seiya, encounters Sheena. As an Amaberry staff member, Sheena has also heard about Seiya falling ill, so she didn't expect Seiya to attend school. Additionally, she's curious about the strange object on Seiya's head. Then, Isuzu tries to mimic Seiya's way of speaking. She explains that her fever has gone down, so everything is fine. To make sure, Isuzu wants to know if there's anything strange about her today. From Sheena's perspective, Seiya seems to be in a good mood today. Usually, Seiya would just ignore her, so today Sheena feels a bit happy. Isuzu is puzzled by Seiya's behavior towards Sheena all this time. In her shoe locker, Isuzu finds a pink letter. When she reads it, it turns out to be a love confession. The sender wants to meet behind the sports building after school. Throughout the lessons, Isuzu is conflicted about what to do. She could call Seiya and ask for guidance, but Isuzu doesn't want to bother Seiya, who is currently sick. After school, Isuzu goes to the designated place. She indeed meets the sender. However, the girl explains that she made a mistake in sending her letter. She actually intended to give it to Kimura from Class 5, but she accidentally placed it in Seiya's locker. The girl sincerely apologizes for this incident. Calmly, Isuzu tells her not to worry. Everyone makes mistakes. Moreover, Isuzu is impressed by the girl's effort to come here and apologize. She could have easily run away without explaining what happened. By the way, Isuzu seems to know the girl. She knows her name, Sacheda Kane. Kane now feels relieved. Originally, she was worried about getting scolded severely. Before Isuzu leaves, she wishes Kane to soon meet her true love. Somehow misunderstanding or something, Kane seems to say that she's grateful for making a mistake with the letter. When back at Amaberry, Isuzu doesn't report the earlier incident to Macaron, who will be taking over the disguise tomorrow. Suddenly, Macaron recalls his high school days. Back in Maple Land, he attended Melody High School. Isuzu often heard violent news about that high school. Macaron then confesses that he was the leader of a gang at that school, and eventually, the school expelled him. Setting aside all those stories, Isuzu hopes that Macaron won't cause any trouble while being Seiya. Macaron himself promises to behave like an ordinary high school student. The next day, Macaron, disguised as Seiya, behaves like a delinquent during class. When reprimanded by the teacher, Macaron responds impolitely. By the way, he still ends his sentences with the word "Ron" as usual. After that, feeling bored with the lesson, he makes an excuse to go to the health office. In reality, of course, he doesn't go to the health office. At the moment, Macaron is lunging in the schoolyard. Coincidentally, Sheena approaches him. Macaron just remembers that Sheena is also a student at this school. Suddenly, he invites Sheena to skip class with him until the afternoon. Macaron plans to play the whole machine. Sheena immediately feels disgusted and leaves. Not far from there, Kanae and Kimura are seen. Kimura heard from Matsumi that Kanae plans to give him a love letter. Kanae admits that was her plan, but now she's starting to doubt her decision. Her feelings are now mixed. Macaron, hearing their quarrel, decides to reveal himself. With a proud look, he intends to give advice as a senior. After that, Kanae doesn't expect Saya to be in this place. Suddenly, Macaron acts familiar with Kimura and says that women will distance themselves more if pursued too much. Macaron advises him to step back first and wait for his feelings to improve. Kimura can't accept that advice, especially since the man who received a love letter from Kanae is Surya. Kanae started to be interested in Saya, so her feelings became complicated. So, Kimura doesn't accept advice from Saya. Macaron, of course, is unaware of this. It seems true that Kanae started to change her mind when Saya treated her very kindly that time. Because Isuzu didn't report this, Macaron thinks the incident happened the day before yesterday. Kimura, who is getting fed up with Saya, punches him. Although Macaron is hit, he feels the weak punch has no impact on him. However, Macaron is surprised why Kimura looks scared. It turns out that the recent punch made his magical clothing scratched, and it looked like Saya's neck was almost detached. Macaron immediately fixes it as if it's not a big deal. Kimura, of course, is frightened by what he just saw and runs away in a panic. Then, Kanae checks if Saya is okay. Macaron explains that he indeed has a somewhat special body. Then, Kanae apologizes again for her behavior. By chance, Macaron states that everyone makes mistakes. He says the same thing Asuzu said yesterday. When back at Amaburi, Macaron also doesn't report what happened today. By the way, tomorrow is Terami's turn. The next day, Terami, disguised as Saya, is sitting in the school garden during the break. He does this because he wants to check out the beautiful girls in this school. Coincidentally, Kanae approaches him. She wants to talk to Saya about something. Terami feels like he's hit the jackpot and invites Kanae to sit next to him with a teasing gesture. Unfortunately, Terami makes a misstep by asking for the girl's name. Kanae is surprised that Saya has already forgotten her name. Terami then makes a cheeky excuse that he likes it when Kanae mentions her name. Whatever Terami is thinking, he invites Kanae to talk elsewhere. They both head to the rooftop and accidentally run into Sheena. When Sheena asks who the girl with him is, Terami casually informs her that he's going to have fun with that girl. Sheena truly can't believe Saya would behave like that. She says she'll report it to Isuzu. Suddenly, Kanae becomes pouty and asks who the girl is. She also wants to know her connection with Isuzu. Kanae feels like she's just a third wheel. Kanae also feels that Saya has been acting strange lately, especially today. Although Kanae thought Saya was a good person, Terami tries to convince her that he is a good person. But when Kanae asks him to mention her name, Terami doesn't know it. When at Amaburi, Terami also doesn't report today's events. The next day, it's Moffel's turn. He is clearly confused as to why he's suddenly summoned by Matsumi and two other friends. Even Isuzu is dragged there. Apparently, Matsumi heard that Saya had been cruel to Kanae. Coincidentally, Kanae is also there. She actually didn't want yesterday's issue to escalate, but Matsumi forces her to call Saya and Isuzu. Matsumi demands that Saya apologize. In an instant, Moffel immediately apologizes. Since the body isn't his, he doesn't care about dignity. Moffel even kneels when told to and promises not to approach Kanae again. However, Matsumi feels that Saya seems to be underestimating this issue. Matsumi is convinced that Saya is copying his bad acting from comics or TV. Instantly, Moffel gets furious. Isuzu informs that the person will get angry immediately when called an imitation. In anger, Moffel splits the tree next to him and lectures about the pain of true love. People like them won't understand it. Moffel gives an example. A woman you love for 10 years suddenly leaves and marries your eternal enemy. Then, 10 years later, she comes to you and entrusts her child. It feels so painful. Asuzu becomes suspicious if Moffel is referring to Latifah's mother. Moffel immediately denies it, saying it's just an example. In the midst of the commotion, Kimura arrives in a hurry. He apologizes to everyone involved. He says Seiya did this for him. Saya is willing to say strange and teasing things to make Kane hate him. He tries to reconcile Kimura and Kane. Kimura explains that he asked for Seiya's help to win Kane. After hearing this explanation, Matsumi and Kane finally end this dispute. After that, it was revealed that the one who came earlier was Seiya, wearing magical clothes. Earlier, Sheena called Seiya directly because she felt that something was strange lately. As for the real Kimura, Saya plans to explain to her later. Sheena is curious why Seiya didn't get angry with Moffel and the others for their actions. Even though they caused trouble, Seiya knows that they were just trying to help the sick Seiya. He feels he has no right to scold them. Sheena immediately smiled hearing this. The Seiya in Sheena's mind is still the same as he has always been.